Good evening. I'm Jack Hemmingway. I've spent some of the best moments of my life hunting and fishing, exploring Idaho and its rugged terrain. It has captured my heart, much as it captured my father's years and years ago. Welcome to Incredible Idaho. My introduction to Idaho came in 1939 in the form of a letter from my father, Ernest Hemmingway. Enclosed with his colorful narrative were photographs, some of parties here at Sun Valley's Trail Creek cabin. This was one of my father's favorite places. But you know what really got my attention as a young fly fisherman was a picture of an enormous rainbow trout. I was to find that Idaho's pristine trout streams were just the beginning of many wonders awaiting me. It's not often in life we get to share a place we love, especially with so many folks at once. Each month, this show will take you to new wonders, to the wildness, to the wildlife that make Idaho so special. Stay with us. Tonight marks the premiere of a great new adventure, Incredible Idaho. There once was a tribe of Native Americans that lived along the banks of the Middle Fork of the Salmon River. Their specialized skill in hunting mountain sheep earned them the name of sheep eaters. For centuries, a wary balance existed between predator and prey. All that changed with the arrival of the white settlers and with the Sheep Eater War of 1879. Today, the rocky terrain above the Salmon River is still home to the bighorn sheep, but the sheep eaters have vanished from their ancestral refuge. Big Creek drainage shelters the primitive pictographs that tell the sheep eater story, and shelters as well their traditional prey, still roaming the rugged canyons. There's something wondrously majestic about these animals. We marvel at their remarkable agility on the steep rocky slopes. We're moved by their inherent dignity as they pause to survey their world. But here on the Salmon, that world is in question. Last June, 10 lambs were born to radio-collared sheep in the Big Creek drainage. By July, all 10 were dead. Wildlife veterinarian Dave Hunter wants to know why.
We don't have any pre-drawn conclusions. The first thing we need to do is take a look, follow these lambs, get all the information we can from them. So that's why we take them out of the wild.
These bighorn sheep are at a research facility near Caldwell. They're all pregnant ewes that were captured this spring from the backcountry. They should be lambing within weeks. It's difficult to closely monitor wildlife, especially bighorns, in their natural habitat. The plan to bring the sheep here seemed the best solution. This will give Dave Hunter the opportunity to examine the lambs from the day they're born and hopefully find out why bighorn lambs aren't surviving.
In the wilderness area back there, these population problems, or these disease problems, tend to be very, very closely tied to population densities, or if you will, the number of animals that particular ecosystem can support.
5 years of drought may have contributed to the disease problems among bighorns. Biologists speculate that drought-stricken areas cannot support as many animals. The result is a population die-off. With this in mind, Idaho Fish and Game targeted 2 areas along the Middle Fork for the bighorn capture operation: Morgan Creek near Chalice and here at Big Creek.
There they go up the hill, see them? Yeah. That was the one I was aiming for.
As the darting drug begins to take effect, Fish and Game biologists scramble up the steep slope.
First thing we look for is to see if she's shocky after we finally come up on her, after we dart her. And we look for the color to make sure that her capillary refill is good. You can see she's nice and pink. She's cut her lip as she fell down these rocks, but you can see the little wound there. That'll be just fine. We come down and we look for any obvious major wounds, which she doesn't have. She looks in good shape. We can blot the belly and we can feel something popping around in there. She's probably a little lamb. If we come down here, we can look at her mammary glands. We start seeing development of the mammary glands here. Okay, she's now Big Creek number 2. And she's an adult. What do you think? At least 4.5.
Big Creek number 2 is loaded up into a sling for her trip off the mountain to base camp.
Okay, we're getting her.
We've got the sheep ready to go.
The drawbacks are always in the fact that you handle an animal, you take it out of its normal environment. We're putting an abnormal stress on these animals in this stage of pregnancy right now. So we take a chance on losing some lambs, and we might take a chance on losing ewes. And you have to draw the line and say, does the consequence of potentially losing an animal gain us anything from the knowledge we're going to get by trying to take them out? And in this case, I think it is. We're going to be able to follow these animals, follow this disease process through, look at the lambs, look at the ability of the lambs to fight their own battles.
From the base camp, the sheep are loaded into a fixed-wing airplane for their trip out of the backcountry. A Fish and Game unit is standing by at the Caldwell Airport to transport them to their temporary home at the research facility. Over in Morgan Creek, the sheep are captured using a helicopter and a device called a net gun. This is less stressful for the animal because no drugging darts are necessary.
2.5, 3.5, she's 4.5 years old. Check her teeth.
Blood tests are taken, and the animals are marked with ear tags. Blindfolds and hobbles are carefully removed before loading the sheep into a trailer for the drive to the research facility.
We need to follow this thing through, and that's why, again, we pull these animals out of the wild into this artificial situation until the lambs are born, and then they will return to the wild.
Touchdown. Okay.
Within the next 2 weeks, there should be newborns at the research facility. With their birth will come valuable new information that will be helpful to Idaho's bighorn population. As this story unfolds, we'll keep you up to date on all the latest developments. Despite setbacks, mountain sheep are not an unusual sight in Idaho's backcountry. But not all our native wildlife species have fared so well. There's only one remaining herd of woodland caribou in the United States and is protected by the Federal Endangered Species Act. Those that remain are found in the rugged Selkirk Mountains of North Idaho. Early spring finds them at the 6,000-foot level, still holding in the deep snows that make up their winter habitat.
Laying down right on the top. We'll be coming under the wing shortly.
Early each year, aerial surveys are conducted to monitor the Selkirk population of caribou. 17 of the animals have active radio collars. With the aid of these wing antennas and the skills of pilot Ken Burns, Fish and Game Research biologist Brad Compton locates the herd.
Right on top. Right on top. Do you see him standing?
47 caribou are counted, but that's just a small part of the information Brad is collecting. He's especially interested in how last summer's calves weathered their first Selkirk winter.
The first count we had 7 calves, 40 adults. This last April count we had 41 adults and 6 calves.
According to these numbers, about 15% of the herd is calves. Typically, this would indicate a stable caribou population. But research on the Selkirk herd is really just beginning. Without an accurate, scientific method of counting the animals, Brad is hesitant to draw any conclusions.
It's improbable that you can fly the whole Selkirks and see every single caribou. So we're going to develop a model hopefully develop a model that will allow us to correct for those that we don't see. Once we have that model in place, then we'll be able to monitor population trends.
These aerial surveys are the beginning of a monitoring and evaluating stage of the research. It is actually the second phase of the Caribou Project. The first phase began in 1987. At that point, the herd had dwindled to about 30 animals.
It was foreseeable that without any type of management, positive management, we weren't going to be in caribou business for very long.
A transplant operation was conceived where a woodland caribou from Canada would be captured and moved to North Idaho to supplement the small resident herd. Over a period of 4 years, an interagency team led by the Idaho Department of Fish and Game transplanted 60 animals to the Selkirks. This operation, in March of 1990, captured 12 caribou in the Canadian Rockies of British Columbia.
This specific operation used 2 helicopters. The first one was to locate the animals, find them in an area that they were accessible by net gun. Second one acted as a slingshot. 89 total length.
Once blood samples and measurements are taken, each caribou is fitted with a numbered ear tag and a radio collar. The captured animals are then released into a temporary holding corral. United States law requires a 72-hour waiting period to assure that these 12 caribou are free from disease.
We'll try and get 3 in at once. The minute we get 3 in, somebody throw that gate shut.
Okay, slowly, Jerry.
The majority of the animals were prime age animals. We figured from 3 to 7 years old, which is ideal for moving. And also to bolster a population, you want producing animals. "15 hours later, the caribou are released into their new home. There are no guarantees in the wildlife business. How well the Selkirk population of caribou will do in the long term is just speculation at this point. Of these 12, 2 have drifted across the border into British Columbia. 1 died last summer, and 1 has disappeared. The journey has ended for the remaining 8. They found a home with this herd in the rugged Selkirk Mountains. But the road to recovery is a long one for the endangered caribou. Researcher Brad Compton, circling high above, knows their journey has really just begun. As the day has become longer, we all find our own way to welcome the new season. For me, it involves getting out and doing some stream fishing. For the wildlife world, it's a season of renewal. Spring's a time when those animals that have survived the winter must make new beginnings. Water. It nurtures life. If one element could define this season of beginnings, it would have to be water. Beneath its sheltering cover, steelhead build their nests. Their long journey from the ocean is over. The rivers of Idaho have called the steelhead back to the place of their birth. Here, the cycle renews itself. The female prepares her nest, fanning the gravel with her tail. Nearby, the male plays court. A moment of time and a dance that has gone on for centuries. Each spring, the waters of Mud Lake nourish thousands of migrating snow geese. The wetland attracts two sandhill cranes, pausing on their way to nesting areas further east. Spring comes a bit more slowly to Idaho's high country. Every winter, a deadly drama plays out along the river in Island Park. The trumpeter swans depend on the open waters of the Henry's Fork for food. This was a generous winter. The Henry's Fork sustained the flock. The gentle warmth of spring has come, and the swans escaped disaster for another year. Bighorns greet the spring ever cautiously, ready to bolt where very few can follow. It's a sure sign of spring when fish and game biologist Mike Schlegel finds himself in a helicopter counting elk. Perhaps more traditional than the overhead buzz of a helicopter is the quiet spring flight of nature's own aerialists. Spring is the nesting season. As evening closes on Lake Pend Oreille, this nesting Canada goose comes one day closer to hatching her brood. It usually takes about 4 weeks from the time a goose starts nesting until the goslings break out of their shells. Photographer Bill Crum discovered 6 little geese experiencing their very first day in this world. Their story closes our show, along with an invitation to join us again next month for Incredible Idaho.